Hi guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be my wrap up for January and February. I was supposed to do my January wrap up sooner than this. I was going to release it at the midpoint of February, but I was thinking, well, what's the point? February's nearly over and I might as well wait until February finishes and then at the end just do my wrap up for January and February of this year. So sorry about that. I will do my best to release wrap ups every single month because these are a pain in the ass for me to edit because I need to put up all the pictures of the books that I've read. I mean, it's not really much of a pain, it's more awkward and tedious, cropping them out and putting them all up here. So I will try and make this video as short and painless as I possibly can. Also as well, I went into this year with a positive outlook on life and I wanted to make a change because of stuff that's happened in the past year. And I've conquered one of my greatest fears. It may sound silly and stupid to some people, but I had a fear, or so-called fear, of cats. In the past, I could look at a cat and think, oh, look how cute it is and how nice it is. But if it came up to me or wanted me to stroke it, no, I couldn't do that. And that was because of a event or incident that happened when I was a child with a family cat that used to be a vicious sod. Every time you tried to stroke it, it was like it was like trying to stroke Freddy Krueger, but on a massive high. I mean, a massive sugar high. But recently, I wouldn't say really on a daily occurrence, but pretty much we've got these two cats that come into our garden. One is a black and white younger cat who's grown up quite a bit. I saw him because me and my nan were in the kitchen and because I'm a family guy, and we heard this meowing and there was a cute little kitten outside of our kitchen door which leads into our garden, and it was meowing at the front of our door and we couldn't let him in because it's not our cat. But there was a tabby cat that comes into our garden every now and then. I can stroke its head, on its face, its sides. I can stroke it anywhere, on its tail, on its, when it rolls over on its back. I can stroke it on its belly. It has never, not once, tried to bite me or claw me. And I can feel 100% confident that I can stroke this cat and nothing bad will happen. I've even sat down on the floor at its level and stroked it. I mean, I'm still apprehensive about it maybe biting me or scratching me playfully, but it's giving me some sort of pleasure and I do enjoy when the cat comes. So yeah, one of my fears conquered. So anyway, that's probably going to be a bit of a hassle to edit. So let's just go to the my own wrap up for January and February. These are going to be in order. So the first one's going to be the first book that I read in 2024, and the last one is going to be my most recent read that I finished in February. So the first book I read was a non-fiction, and that was one that I picked up in a second-hand bookshop during the Halloween periods. I'm not sure if they do it anywhere else, but in one of our second-hand bookshops I have in my hometown, they have like a window display every single holiday that we have. They try to do their window display to match that holiday, and this book was in the window and I picked it up and I didn't get to it until January, and that one was called True Ghost Stories by Colin Wilson. This is kind of like a encyclopedia sort of about paranormal and ghost activities, and it does actually have witches in it as well. I mean, it was interesting. It was okay, nothing mind-blowing, but it was okay. I'm pleased I read it. I rated it a 3 stars, and these are going to be out of 5-star ratings, guys, so just so you know. Next is Frankenstein by Junji Ito. This is his adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic horror story, which everyone should actually read at least once. There's nothing really much that he added into the story. It's just his take on the characters, and more specifically the monster, is where he shines in this whole adaptation. Unfortunately, the whole Frankenstein book by Ginger Ito isn't all the same story. About half of it is Frankenstein and half of it's something else, which I can't remember what it was. But as a whole, I rated it a 4 stars out of 5. So expect me to be talking about loads of Ginger Ito because I want to try to read loads of his stuff this year. So Frankenstein was a decent read. Not the best by the guy, but definitely worth your time. Next was Nails and Eyes. Now this was one I got in my Bundle Book Club box, which is a horror and thriller based book. The cover doesn't look like anything special, but I wanted to give it a chance. I read on the back it had something to do with Japanese culture, and I thought, okay, great, a horror book about Japanese mythology and cultures and their maybe their ghost stories as well. So I was thinking, great. I'm all up for that, being a Ginger Ito fan, and I've been on the hunt for like a good Japanese horror outside of Ginger Ito. But the cover didn't really fill me with much confidence. It was more arty-farty than anything else. But I give it an honest chance. I give it a honest shot. Can't remember much about it, but I do remember that it was not horror. I hated it. It was so boring. It was one of the books that had numerous other stories, but Nails and Eyes was the main story. I didn't finish reading the other stories because of how much I disliked Nails and Eyes, but I marked it as read because I read the main story. I can't remember anything about it, but I do remember I disliked it immensely, and it's the only book so far in my reading journey that I've ever given a book a 1 star. It probably will be someone's cup of tea. This will be someone's favourite book, but for me, as a horror fan, no. Next was Horror House by Carl John Lee. This is a extreme horror novella, and it's about a group of kids that go up to a house in the mountains to try to reconnect from their high school years, and it doesn't really end the way that they would like. They come across this massive old house in the middle of the woods that doesn't look that it belongs there. I don't really want to say too much, but it's very bloody, it's very gory, and it's more about these occupants trying to avenge the wrongs that men have done to women. That's probably as far as I want to go with that. I am a massive Carl John Lee fan. I've only got two books by him. Sorry, first thing in the morning, guys. So bear with me. I had a terrible night last night, so I got 2 books that I need to read by the guy and 1 short story which is Christmas related. And I'm seriously contemplating to just read that story stand alone before Christmas time, just so I can say I've read everything by Carl John Lee and not wait until the end of the year. But this was excellent, really good. I had a lot of fun with it, and I rated it a 5 stars. Next was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I was aware about this book. I watched the movie without reading the book. I watched the movie when it originally came out at the cinema. Didn't think very much of it. It was an okay movie. It's one that you can watch when it's pouring down with rain and you have nothing else to do. But I was watching one of these videos from Bad Is Rad 2, and she was reading a story of it in the graveyard or cemetery by her. And I was thinking, do you know what? I've never read this book. I should read it. I'm a horror fan. So I found it relatively cheap on eBay. The first volume, there are 3 volumes. I just read the first volume to get my taste of it, and it was good. It was a good short story children's collection, and it was a lot of fun. So I rated that one a 4 stars. When it comes to if I'm going to be reading the other two volumes, maybe. It depends on if I find them at a good price or not. Next one was a poetry book that I got by Tim Burton, and that was called The Death of the Oyster Boy. I was going to buy this one on eBay. I had it on my watch list, and then shortly after that, a few days later, I think I went to my one of my favourite secondhand bookshops, and they had two copies of it, and it was really good. I flicked through it, had beautiful coloured illustration drawn by the man himself, and it seemed really weird, really creepy. Tim Burton at his finest before he got onto whatever Alice in Wonderland was. But I think that he should go back to them roots, go back to his weird, twisted, imaginative ways. But I really enjoyed this one. I did read a poem from it on my poetry series, thinking that I might get into trouble because it's Tim Burton. But I didn't. No one said anything, so I'll probably be reading some more from that collection. But I rated the Oyster Boy by Tim Burton a 5 stars. Next was Deserter by Junji Ito. I can't remember much about this. I think it was a short story collection, as he's been writing a lot of them recently. I can't remember much about this book. Had a bit of a malfunction there. But I remember it was okay. Not the best, not the worst. It was just okay. I rated that one a 3 stars. Next I got was a horror anthology manga called Betwixt. Probably said that a bit wrong. When you search Junji Ito online, this book may come up. Now, if you are on a journey to read everything that Junji Ito has ever written, then this will probably come up. But be warned, guys, all these stories in this book, despite the fact that they are great, none of them are done by the man himself. What he has done, he has designed the cover of this book, and I believe he wrote the foreword for it as well. Now, this book is split up into 2 sections. One is, half of it is Japanese manga, and the other one is American manga. And they kind of meet in the middle. You can just start whatever side that you want. Also, as well, the forewords for the Japanese and the American versions are identical, so you don't have to like read 2 forewords. It was good. It was a good book, but not as the quality of Junji Ito. But I enjoyed it. There was some real good gems in there, so I give that one a 4 stars. Next is my first small author request that I read during the year, and that was Lynon Falls by Joshua Hershey. This is about a young lady who goes into another dimension to battle a snake god and try to rescue humanity from destruction and chaos. This is a Christian fantasy book. It does go overboard a bit with the descriptions of the scenery and what's going on, but it was a fun read, and I will probably reread it at some point, and maybe, who knows, I might like it a bit better on a reread. So I rated that one a 3 stars. Next is Tomy by Junji Ito. This is a kind of a short story collection based around the character of Tomy, instead of it being one continuous linear story. Now, Tomy as a character, she is a very attractive girl, and everyone that comes into contact with her falls madly in love with her, and then ultimately kills her and chops up her body. Every time that this happens, Tomy grows back. So all of her limbs grow over Tomy's. Even if a drop of blood goes onto a carpet, that can grow over Tomy. And she's constantly regenerating and growing herself. And it's very horrific about what happens to these men that fall in love with her. Yes, it can get a bit repetitive at times, and you're thinking, okay, this is good, but where is it ultimately going? Can we have a conclusion? And Ginger Eaty doesn't really do conclusions. It is one of them. It is a one that's highly regarded by Ginger Eaty fans, and I can see that. But for me, it's not one of my favourites, but it's definitely up there. So I rated that one a 5 stars, despite the fact that I found it a bit repetitive at times. Next was a reread for me, the first reread of 2024, and that was The Blood Beast Mutations by Carl John Lee. This was requested by one of my viewers that I read this. He watched, I think, my video on Horror House, and he wanted to get my opinion on this book. I did tell him that I read it once, but I wouldn't mind rereading it again because I want to do videos on all of Carl John Lee's work, to try to get his books out there and get word out and all that stuff. But this is about a man that grows up, or is living rather, in a virus infected world, kind of like the coronavirus, and people that get the virus get these creatures living inside them, and they pop out and they try to destroy humanity. And in the meantime, this character's trying to go to a hospital and try to get his wife back, and it is good. It is really good. It's the first Carl John Lee book that I ever read, and I really liked it. I like the characters, I like the whole world, and I give it a 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Next was The Skull, which was a children's picture book which I got brand new at a comic book shop called The Forbidden Planet. And this is about a young girl who runs away from home, comes across a mansion with a talking skull in it. It does have some brilliant artwork in it, and I am going to be doing a video on it. And I don't want to say too much about it, but I found it interesting that if I was reading it and I was thinking that this girl was mad and making all this up in her mind, it seemed more creepy that way. But I liked it a lot, and I give it a 4 stars. Next was a book from the Shivers series, the children's horror series, and this one was called Ghosts of Camp Massacre by M.D. Spencer, about a girl, a socially awkward girl that goes to camp, finds out that it's haunted by these ghosts that supposedly were killed by this Indian tribe. And yeah, I found it was really entertaining, especially for a kid's book. Usually kids books, I'm like thinking, okay, that was fine, but I'm not the target audience. But I felt that I could reread this book and I would still enjoy it. So I can't wait to read some other stuff by the Shivers series, as I've got a bunch of their books. So I rated that one a 4 stars. Next was When the Sky Goes Dark by Oliver C. Seneca. This is another post-apocalyptic book about all these people that go mad and start fights and killing each other, and the whole world has been turned upside down, and this boy has to go back and try to go to his family home to try to see what's happened to his parents in this whole situation. I like this book, despite the fact that it did have some flaws. It did have some flashback scenes which I thought that was unnecessary, and it did have some words and phrases that were used that I thought weren't really the type or the right words or phrases to be used in that whole scenario. But I enjoyed it immensely, and I give it a 4 stars. Highly recommend it, guys. Highly recommend it. I need to do a video on why you should read stuff by small or unknown authors. That would probably be a fun video to make. Next was Horror House 2 by Carl John Lee. This is not really a direct continuation of the first book, or from the first book. This is kind of a standalone thing with some characters that enter at the end, which happened to be in book 1. But this is about a group of girls that are obsessed with this rock band called the Slaughtered Lambs. They are invited back to their mansion, and soon after that they are massacred and hunted down viciously by by this group. And it's very horrific, it's very gory, it's extreme horror, guys, and this is probably the most disturbing book that I've read to date. Well, one of them. I think that Chainsaw Massacre by Nick Blake, aka Sean Hudson, is pretty close to that. But it was still a really good book. I enjoyed it. And it's Carl John Lee, so what else am I going to rate it apart from my 5 stars? And the last thing that I managed to finish in February was the Oran Series by B.C. Andrews. Yes, I know all these, this is pretty much 4 stories, and I could have like labeled them as 4 separate books, but I didn't really want to do that. I thought that I was cheating a bit, so I put it as 1 book instead of 4. But they're all published separately. They are Butterfly, Crystal, Brook, and Raven story. I enjoyed it immensely. About these 4 orphans or girls that temporarily get adopted, and through unknown events and stuff that they cannot control, they are adopted and put into this hotel by this seemingly nice couple. That's probably the closest basic thing I can say about it. I have done 4 separate videos on each of these girls, so if you're interested, please go and watch them as well. But I enjoyed the whole Orphan series as a whole, and I have got Runaways coming soon. That should be arriving any day now, so when I get a chance I will be reading that one and tying up the whole Orphan series. So yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned it, guys, but I rated the whole Orphan series a 5 stars. So that's been my wrap up, guys. This is probably gonna be a pain in the ass to edit. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know if I've maybe encouraged you to read any of these. What are your opinions? Did you like some of these books? Did you hate them? And yeah, I better edit this now. As I said, this is going to be a pain for me to do and edit. But yeah, I'll try to get this video out as soon as I can. So yeah, with all that out of the way, I'll see you on my next video, guys.